Hello everyone and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Douglas Johnson. I'm a yoga teacher, a ordained minister, amongst other things. If you're interested in the deep end of the spirituality pool, then you're in the right place. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about getting out of your head, the somatic side of spirituality. But before I get into that, I want to thank everyone who makes these talks possible, my patrons on Patreon, and who support me financially in this work. If you'd like to join that community, check out the links below. You can also make one-time donations on PayPal or Venmo. If you don't want to contribute financially, a great way to help out is to like, subscribe, comment, and share the video. Okay, so getting out of your head, the somatic side of spirituality. It's interesting because many people think of meditation as an intellectual endeavor. And I can understand why. It does seem like it's all about letting go of thoughts or stopping thoughts, or maintaining a certain kind of thought, or maintaining a certain kind of image or visualization. So it seems very heady, and perhaps certain types of meditation are. But in my experience, I've been teaching meditation longer than I've been doing anything else. And in my experience, the huge value that comes from meditation, at least the style that I teach, which is from the Zen Buddhist tradition, is getting into your body. And I've instructed many people over the years who were long-time meditators. They've been meditating, they have a practice, daily practice, they've been meditating a long time, but they get to a certain point where they are stuck. And very often the solution that I give them that helps them get unstuck is bringing their awareness down into their body. So for whatever reason, again, I don't know if it's because people are so focused on trying to let go of their thoughts or what they're thinking, or their energy is all up here, which I think is a symptom of modern human beings. We tend to have all our energy and focus on our thoughts, and we're not really paying as much attention to what's going on in our body. This is one of the reasons why yoga can be so powerful if it's taught in the right way. It gives us an opportunity to begin to pay attention to what we're feeling in our body. And for many people, that is a process. I think because modern life is so mentally focused, we, over the time of our growing up, we eventually learn how to become disembodied for the most part. Some more than others. If you've had trauma, then you may be very disembodied. But I think even your average American or a person who lives in a modern culture is going to be fairly disembodied. I think the reasons for this are many, but one reason is the modern education system, where children are told to basically sit down for long periods of time, and it's just not natural. Their bodies are telling them to move because they're developing, and the movement is so important to their development, and they're being told, no, if you do that, you get punished. So in the child's mind, I think what happens is the child learns, well, I can't listen to what's down here. I can't let what's down here motivate me, because if I do, I get in trouble. I get yelled at, I get put in detention, I get punished on so many levels, right? You might be out. I remember being a child and being at a restaurant, and after sitting for a little while, I wanted to start moving around, running around, And, you know, parents and adults would inevitably get upset. Sit down, be quiet, be a good boy. So, and I get it. I'm not trying to blame parents or teachers for wanting to sort of rein in this childlike energy, but it does have an effect. And again, the effect on most of us on an unconscious level, most people aren't aware that this is what they're thinking, but they're saying, I can't listen to what's down here. If I listen to that, if I motivate by that, then I will probably get in trouble. So there's so many examples of that. Sexual energy, right? Having to go to the bathroom, hunger, all kinds of things. So of course, as human beings, we are ultimately motivated by what we feel in our bodies. But I think by the time we're an adult, it very often has to be quite extreme. And we're often, as an adult, paying more attention to the thoughts that are generated by the feeling in the body. So, again, we might be trying to change something in our lives. And let's say we're using manifestation and we're trying to affirm for a different outcome, a different experience. Well, it's very hard, I'm not saying it's not possible, it's very hard to do that when what you're feeling in your body is fear or the opposite. I believe Dr. Joe Dispenza calls this heart-mind coherence, where the heart, the body, the somatic experience aligns with what we are mentally affirming. So again, I can't say that it's not possible to mentally affirm and have the opposite outcome happen, or have the outcome happen even though you feel the opposite. I'm not saying that can't be possible. Maybe it is. But in my own experience, it's a lot harder to keep affirming when your body, essentially, the somatic is saying no. It's basically saying you're telling yourself a lie. And my inquiry teacher, Scott Killaby, he did a video on manifestation, and he was saying how if you don't clean up that incoherence between the body and the mind, you very often end up manifesting the opposite of what you want. Because in a way, as you affirm for what you want and your body is saying no, 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 in my experience and what he's saying is your body's going to win. As human beings, I've said it before and I'll say it again, what makes something real for us is how we feel about it. Okay? If a terrible thing happens to us, but it does not diminish our peace and our joy, a quote-unquote terrible thing, then it's not terrible, in a sense. Okay? Yet, if something very small happens to us, we get cut off in traffic, let's say, and we all of a sudden feel enraged and angry and upset, and we feel a contraction in our body, and it's just sitting there, and all day as we go through the day, it's coloring everything we experience. Well, it doesn't matter that it was a small thing. For us, it feels big. It feels huge. It's going to affect how we interact with others. It's going to be difficult to have compassion or feel love in that state. So again, as human beings, what really makes something real for us is how we feel about something. I'm not saying our feelings can't be influenced by our thinking, of course, but what makes something feel real is the feeling. Even it's there in the word, what makes it feel real, okay? So we really want to pay attention to the somatic, what's going on in our body. Now, as I've said, in my experience, meditation usually progresses from the head to the heart to the gut. Now, some people have a heart awakening instead of a sort of a head awakening, if you will. Doesn't make too much of a difference, but usually people are starting in their head, they're letting go of thoughts, they understand the practice, and then they might have a awakening and everything all of a sudden appears different. It's the same, but it's different. That's the best way I could describe it. And there is a feeling that comes with that, a sense of expansiveness, if you will, a sense of innocence, a lot of other things. Very hard to put into words, so the words don't really do it justice. Then very often, then this is how it happened for me, afterwards there's a heart awakening. And that is very powerful and very lovely. In a sense, you're in love with everything, with life, with the world. It's like when you're in love with a person, except there's no object of love. Everything, every object is the object of your love. And then waking up the gut, in my experience, is very often the last part of it. And when I say gut, I'm saying that in a sort of loose way. I don't literally mean that it's only in your gut, right? Just like when your heart awakens, it's not, you just feel it in your heart, although you might feel a lot. I used to feel like my heart was going to explode. I felt so much love, and I wanted to express that love and share that love. So the gut is the most primal level, you might say. This is where a lot of instinctual information lives. You know, we might say biological information that is central to the human being, the survival mechanisms of the human being. And this is where a lot of really deep-rooted unconscious material lives. So I think for me, this is the most challenging area. And this is where a lot of what I'm speaking about, the somatic experience, comes into play. If, again, I am feeling a certain way, that will color everything. And I'm sharing this from my personal experience right now. Even though I've been on this path a very long time, even though I teach, I still go through periods where I really might not feel very good. It's rare, but recently I went through a very long period like that. And while it's mostly lifted, there are still lingering bits. So I wanted to share today because one of the most important practices that we can do is simply to take time to be with and welcome those sensations in the body. And a principle that's really important to understand is what we resist persists. So this is very, very vital that we really comprehend this on a deep level, because if I say I don't want to feel that, I don't want to experience that, then that very thing is actually energized and in a sense made more real by the fact that we are pushing against it or resisting it. That's ego, that sense of separation, that no, I can't experience this, I don't want to experience this, this is separate from me. So if you don't know how to do that, there are various techniques. Inquiry is one way, of course, meditation. This can be subtle. The resistance can be very subtle. So if you ever want help with that, reach out to me, and we could set up a private session to go through that. Usually once people learn the process, they don't necessarily need continuing help. They can do most of it on their own. Every now and then you might hit a speed bump where you need more help with something, but very often you can learn to process a lot of that on your own. Now, in the Tantric tradition, those energies are all seen as a part of you ultimately. Think of water, and water has three forms. It can be a liquid, it can be a solid, and it can be a vapor. So emotions are a lot like that. Generally, what we want with emotions is for them to flow or to move, right? Emotion, it's actually, motion is part of that word. So emotions are functioning properly when they are moving through. The problem for us is, again, many of us at one point or another learn to reject or not feel certain emotions for whatever reason. It really doesn't matter what the reason is. What's important for us is that this has happened to us. And so we say no to the emotion, but it doesn't actually go away. What happens is it gets pushed into the unconscious. And energy cannot be created or destroyed. So in a strange way, when you say no to an emotion, it freezes it, if you will, like water. It becomes a type of solid that then gets stored. Then very often when a trigger happens, maybe a similar situation, that emotion will thaw and then come back up. This is what Eckhart Tolle talks about with pain body. So as the emotion comes up, it adds fuel to whatever fire is happening. Again, if I get cut off in traffic, if I don't have stored up anger or frustration, I might get irritated, but I'm not going to explode or get overly upset. But if there is this block of emotional stored energy, and then that gets activated in that, again, it might ruin my day, it might ruin my week, right? And again, maybe you're thinking, well, I don't care if I get cut off in traffic, but we all have our triggers. And we can see other people are not triggered by the same thing we are triggered by, okay? So ultimately what we want to do is allow these blocks of energy to come into awareness. And life will bring them up. Meditation can bring them up. Practices like yoga nidra, inquiry can bring them up. So as they come up, we need to process them. And in the Tantric tradition, the way we process something, again, is by fully accepting it, by embracing it, by loving it, by not resisting it. And again, I'm sharing from my own experience. This is a practice I've known about for a very, very long time, but it's easy to forget about the power of it. So just yesterday, I was sort of wrestling with a very unpleasant emotion it keeps revisiting me. And I will try affirming, I will try all kinds of manifestation techniques to shift how I feel, and they will not work. As long as this feeling is present, it basically cannot be denied. So I can be affirming, today is a great day, today's a great day. But if I don't feel like today is a great day, then does it really matter? Even if everything goes my way, if I don't feel good about the day, then it doesn't really matter. Additionally, in manifestation, it's said in law of assumption that you get what you are. That everything in reality is a reflection of your state of being. So if you are being afraid and you're sitting there affirming, I love life, life is great, today is the greatest day ever, but what is being is fear, that's what you're experiencing is fear, this feeling of fear, well then none of those affirmations will really make much difference. So taking the time, slowing down, and identifying where in the body we're experiencing something, and then taking the time to really digest that. That's the way the tantrics would put it, the tantric yogis. Digesting that energy, assimilating that energy, taking it from that frozen solid where it seems like it's separate, okay, and then turning it back into a liquid or even a vapor where it melds with the energy around it, right? It returns to its more natural, unmanifest state where it is, you could say, potential to be a gas or a solid or a liquid. It's not necessarily in a particular state. All right, everyone. So I'd love to hear from you if you've had any experience with this, if you have any questions for me. Again, if this is something you think I can help you with, then please reach out and we can set up a private session. Otherwise, namaste and have a beautiful, beautiful day.